Alright, so this is going to be our last example in 7.4D. So Chapter 7, Rational Expressions. 7.4 is adding or subtracting rational expressions, and D talks about different denominator, and this is going to be our last example. So I'm going to fast forward. I'm going to probably go through this pretty quick. Hopefully we'll be done pretty soon. This is all the stuff that we've done. This is 7.4A, this is 7.4B, and here essentially is, again, the steps for adding or subtracting with different denominators. If you need to take a look at that, that's on D2L. Print it out. 1, 2, 3, and 4 talk about converting fractions. 5, 6, 7 talk about adding or subtracting. So those are the steps that we need to go through. We've done these, we've done that one. This is actually, that's 7.4B, I think. That's 7.4C, and now we're up to 7.4D, this example right here. So let's take a look at this. So here, this is my blue fraction, and right there is my green fraction. So I'm going to find what's my lowest common denominator for each one of these. Well, I'm going to convert my blue fraction into, actually not convert it, I'm just going to write it as 1 over d minus 7, and there's a d. Really haven't modified it at all, and oops, what we're going to do is we're going to go through, we're going to go to the green fraction and say, oh, here's my green fraction. I'm going to say that's 5 over negative 1 times d minus 7. And oops, wow, look at that. That makes things a lot easier, doesn't it? Because now we've got a plus sign between them. We got 1 over d minus 7. That was what we were given. Didn't modify that one. We modified the green fraction by saying 5 over 7 minus d is 5 over negative 1 times d minus 7. And I guess now we could even go to the next step and say, in blue, the blue fraction would be 1 over d minus 7 plus, what is our green fraction? We do some shortcuts with this. Sometimes technology works for you, sometimes not. Let's see what this is. I'm going to take the 5 divided by negative 1 and call that negative 5 over d minus 7. And all I did was take that 5 divided by negative 1 gives me a negative 5, and the d minus 7 is now my denominator. And now I can say, well, shoot, now I can combine. I didn't really have to modify anything. We could have gone to, well, let's continue on, I guess, with this, and we'll finish up, and we'll go to what we could have done and made an error, or made the long way around. So 1 over d minus 7 stays 1 over d minus 7. 5 over 7 minus d became 5 over negative 1 times d minus 7, because it's just the opposite of this. And essentially you could have said, well, that's 5 over negative 1 times negative 7 plus d, and then negative 7 plus d becomes d minus 7 just by turning it around or reordering the order of these terms. 5 divided by negative 1 is negative 5, and then d minus 7 stays in my denominator. So now we've got a situation where we've got essentially addition of a blue fraction and a green fraction with common denominators, and all we do is now add things up. And I say, well, now my answer is 1 plus negative 5, because we add the numerators, and the denominator stays the same. D minus 7 doesn't change. 1 plus negative 5 is 1 minus 5 is negative 4 over d minus 7, and there's my answer. And we can't simplify it because negative, I guess 4 doesn't cancel with d minus 7. D minus 7 would be the entire factor in the bottom in the denominator. The long way around would have been to say, well, shoot, this would be, I'll put this in red to say, well, this would be the long way around. We could say, well, that's over 1 over d minus 7, and this is plus 5 over 7 minus d, and what's my lowest common denominator? Lowest common denominator would be d minus 7 times 7 minus d, and then we convert this one and this one into d minus 7 times d plus, or 7 minus d, and that would be, wow, that would be a lot more work than what we need to do. So if we see something like this, where we've got a d minus 7 and a 7 minus d, essentially they're just opposites, we have to remember that d minus 7 can stay the same, and 7 minus d becomes negative 1 times d minus 7, and then we're home free. Alright, that's the kind of easy way around shortcut.